Let's go. Sorry for being so late. Here we go. So Russian immigration continued, and Operation Solomon renewed efforts to rescue. We did this too. Ethiopian Jews, about 14,000 of whom were brought on El Al planes to Israel. Okay, it's interesting about the Ethiopians. They said that it was like fulfilling the verses of the Tanakh that says on the wings of the eagles you will return. And they saw these big planes, and that's how they're coming in. Yeah. So it was a very interesting imagery that they gave. The end of the Intifada was marked by the Oslo Accord in September 13th of 1993. A would-be peace treaty that did not work, as most people have realized. The Oslo Accord were signed by the Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and the PLO chairman Yasser Arafat, both of which are passed away. For these efforts, Rabin, Arafat, and Shimon Peres. Rabin is also, right? He was murdered. Rabin was murdered, right? Yeah. I'm pretty sure, yeah. For both these efforts, Rabin, Arafat, and Shimon Peres were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1994. On the surface, it appeared that Arafat no longer regarded murder and terrorism to be a productive path. He was not, however, in control of Hamas, or Hezbollah, or the Islamic Jihad, or the various other terrorist factions. Thus, it was a bit of a problem to sign an agreement with a dictator who was not in control of the many violent factions. During this period of relative quiet, Arafat gave his people mixed messages, training his people for jihad, and infusing them with a bitter hatred of Israel. What they never removed, and what they were supposed to remove from the Palestinian Liberation Organization's charter, was the very first statement, which states to this very day that their mission is to drive Israel into the sea, to totally drive out and kill the Jews. That has never been wiped out or eradicated from their liberation statement, and that was supposed to be with the Camp David Accord with Carter. It was supposed to be taken out, and then again with Clinton. Never ever happened. Okay.
And where is that stated at?
Their charter.
And what's the title of the charter or the group?
Palestinians. Okay. Palestinian Liberation Organization's charter.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at it, you'll see that it's there, and it will never be removed. But it's I don't think they will anyway, because if they did, they would be picked on by every other of the groups. The other groups and Hamas just gets worse as we go on. PLO, and by the way, that's the problem that Mubarak is one who came after Arafat. Who came after Arafat?
No, what's his name?
I forget. Mubarak is the Egyptian president. Abbas. That was Abbas's. That was his problem. He could not control the groups. Now, I'm going along with the press when I said that, which is obviously foolish, because the press is a bunch of liars. But it's Abbas, according to the press, could not control the groups. But I'm not so sure that is true. I think that if all of them would get together and they would really be honest, then they could all negotiate properly. Okay, and all get on the same page. The bottom line is, it's not effective to do that. What's more effective is to make agreements with everybody and yet to have control of nobody. Okay, because all that does is put Israel on the defensive continually, and it makes it that they'll never win. Okay, they can break treaties left and right. So it works out for the Palestinians or the different Islamic groups to keep saying, oh no, of course we want to make peace, of course we want this, of course we want that, when they absolutely do not and will never want that, because it works against their own agenda. Because if they really wanted peace, it would be very simple. You make peace. It's not, the old adage is, if the Arabs will put down their weapons, there will be peace in the Middle East. If the Israelis who put down the weapons, there will be no more Israel. Period. End. Okay, it's as simple as it gets. The Israelis for the most part, I'm sure there are those hardliners on either side who don't want peace, who want everything, fine, but they're not, certainly not the overwhelming majority. Overwhelming majority wants peace, wants to be left alone, just wants to live and be productive. Okay? And by the way, I would say the same thing with the Islamic people. It's the government that you have to deal with and figure out what are they feeding the people. Now, if you look at what the Israelis are feeding their children via schools, you will see that they have preached that the Palestinians are good people. They have gone through whatever was a part of the Oslo Accords. They followed that through. It was the Arabs who didn't follow through. And that's again where they were preaching hatred, preaching that Israel shouldn't exist, and so on and so forth. So if I'm being brought up with that, it only makes sense, and I go to the Christian world for that, by the way, Christ killers, where if I keep telling my kids that Jews have horns, and they're Christ killers, I really don't expect them to play with me. They only want to know where I'm hiding my horns. And if you go deep south, and sometimes even middle America, right here in good old Indiana with the KKK, you'd have the same problem. Okay? They're just not as open about it anymore.
So the Muslims or the PLOs are just borrowing it from the Christians using it previously. They're just using that as well.
I'm not sure who's borrowing from who at this point, but it's the same thing where I'm just saying if I preach hatred, whatever I'm preaching hatred for, I can't expect the children to totally throw that out, which is why we were talking about Archie Bunker yesterday in one of the other classes. But the reason Norman Lear could get away with that, with making a character like Archie Bunker, was so that all of us could see the stereotype and laugh at it. But I hate to say it, there's a lot of truth to that story where people identified with Archie. And that probably was the saddest part. Archie didn't identify with the character, whatever his name is. Harold O'Connor didn't identify with Archie. It was a character. It was a tremendous character, a caricature of a prejudiced guy. But a lot of what he held is what America held at that point. And now, while the PC, we don't hear it as much, but I wouldn't be surprised if people would identify with what Archie was saying and the roles that were there in that show. And that's why you see shows today. Actually, in those days, you had Sanford and Son. You had all these shows where it would be what's it called, Stephen Fetchit.
Yeah.
Stephen Fetchit there was a black show. Stephen Fetchit. What was it called?
Oh, who was it?
It was a black character who was always seen that way.
What's his name? Amos and Andy.
Amos and Andy, something like that. Where you always had those where it was always living in the tenements, and you had Dynamite, that kid. I forget what his name is.
George Jefferson?
George Jefferson, well, he made it up. Who brought it up, you know. But I'm just saying, with all those things, was all that prejudice that was being put in front of us, and we were laughing at that because, again, most of America was identifying with that, which was, Norman Lear was using it, Norman Lear was using it for us and against at the same time. But that prejudice is what people were brought up with. And so when you look at somebody on welfare, you immediately identify him as a low-life person who doesn't want to work, which may be the exact opposite. Maybe he can't get a job. And because what we're brought up with that concept, it's really hard to fight that until you get to know the people. Okay? So when Israelis get to know Palestinian kids, so then as they meet, and they have to try to figure out, wait a second, I was taught that you were demonic, that you ate me, and yet we're playing Frisbee together. How does that work again? Okay, so you have cognitive dissonance, and that hopefully will come to the next generation where we say is stupidity, which is again what you're seeing in 2014, where a lot of these groups, because America is such a melting pot, we all get to know each other, and it's really hard to say, you think that about me? Well, I don't think you're nice. If I would say to a Christian who I'm friendly with, you call me a Christ killer? How could you? No, not you. I meant the other guy. You're a nice guy, sort of thing. Okay? Which is why when the guy who wrote The Passion, the director of The Passion, Mel Gibson. When he did that, a lot of people, like I said before, were concerned that there would be broken glass in Jewish stores. Nothing happened because the world at large said, "Good movie, all of life. It was a movie. Leave me alone." Okay, that old prejudice wasn't there, and that's because most people don't know what their religion stands for, don't go to church anymore, are not that connected, and on top of that that it was a historical event. It has nothing to do with the people I know now. It's totally different. Okay, so once we move past that, that's one thing. The Palestinians who keep teaching the kids that were demonic and that were taking their land over, and the Al-Nakba, the day of destruction, however you translate that, was it? The day of disaster, whatever. It was the name of the day we became a state. But I'm teaching that. It's really hard to overcome, especially when they're not living with them. Living in a separate place from them. So it's really hard to overcome that.
Now, how does that work? You're saying the Israelis are teaching their children that the Arab people are good people, and
Right.
It's almost like I think Germany. You say you have German neighbors and they're friends with you, but in the blink of an eye.
Correct.
So how do you, or what's the mentality? I guess the Israeli children to say reckless abandon, just be friends with whoever, but at the same time, or do you just have to let your guard down and then hope that they don't?
No, what happens is this cognitive dissonance on their part. They're taught one thing that not everybody wants it, yet with people that they meet may be hating them, so they have to try to figure out, oh, so these are the people that hate me, but there's supposed people who like me. Either that or they just consider the whole thing a lie. You have that problem too. In other words, if actions speak louder than words. So if you're going to keep lobbing bombs at me, 5,000 a day, and I have to live through that, I'm not going to think too highly of you. Which is why if you go back in our history to the 1960s, when it was a crazy time for blockbusters and everything else, but specifically Dorchester, Massachusetts. Okay, Jews have been in the country from the Holocaust times. So because they're basically immigrants in that area, or families of immigrants. And then what happened was Kennedy wanted to bring in people to that area, the blacks from Deep South. He wanted to bring them up. So they used blockbusters. They did a lot of things. And so now you have blacks, Puerto Ricans who are taking over the area. And on top of that, you have blockbusters scaring the Jews who are living there, saying they're going to kill you. Well, you don't need Jews coming from Germany and that much to hear they're going to kill you because they hate you, to really not take you seriously this time. So they make a mass exodus to the suburbs. Now, as a result, so you have the other groups moving in at very reduced prices, because that's what blockbusters do. They want to get them in. And the blacks moving in, who wanted just to have a better life for themselves, they were good people. But because of the prejudice that was in this country, and the scare tactics of the politicians, it wasn't the normal move. So now you have not only for the most part the Jews are gone, but now you have a fight between the Puerto Ricans and the blacks who are trying to vie. And then you have gangland. You had what's it called? Pink Panthers, Black Panthers. Black Panthers. It was a Black Power time at that point. So you have that, and then you had West Side Story guys coming at it. You're thinking, what's going on here? And I mean, now looking back, I grew up in that time period, so growing, and I saw what was happening. It was unbelievable. In retrospect, it was the dumbest thing that could have ever happened. The politicians were so stupid.
What is the supposed benefit that Kennedy thought would happen from that?
Well, he wanted more votes. If I get people in that will vote for me, I'm going to win. But he didn't see that it was short-sighted. Because the truth is, he had the Jewish vote anyway. But that's really what it was. I want to help everybody out and so on and so forth. But it was foolish. But the point is, and the only point I'm making out of the whole thing was, there was so much prejudice and so much scare tactics going on that it was a no-win situation. So here also in Israel, where if I'm teaching one side that they're peaceful, they really want peace and everything else, yet They're doing everything possible to say something, we want you out. So I have a big conflict there. What's happening is what they're teaching me real, or is what I'm seeing real? And I have to figure that out. So some people become militant, some people become pacifists, and say we have to give more, and ultimately they'll probably leave and just let them inhabit the land. Okay? But that's really up to the individual who's going to do it, but I think it creates a big problem in Israel. And that's why the religious have grown so much in Israel, because the non-religious have abandoned. It's not that we have to have many more children, it's just that we have a dedication to the land because God said to live there. And they don't. That doesn't mean that we have a massive run either. I'm just saying that's why you have so many Israelis who come to America or Venezuela or somewhere else to find a new life where they're not going to be picked on for being Jews. Again, they're running away from their own home at that point. And some say, no, I'm not leaving. That's the end of it. I'll fight to the end. So again, you have those groups that come up. But it's a hard thing. It really is hard. But the Oslo Agreement said we have to preach peace. And like I said, the Israelis did. That's proven. And it's also proven that the Palestinians did not, and that's in their books. And if you see the books that they preach, also by the way, it's also against America too. We're just the small devil, I think they call us the small devil. America's the big devil.
Yeah.
So it's a hard thing though. It really is hard. I don't know what's going to happen in the end. I hope that they would change, but I'm not sure what's going to happen.
Throughout history, you can see what hatred is, what a mobilizing force that is.
Right.
Political and social.
Mm-hmm. Correct. It is.
We hear constantly about the Arab Spring. These are very hard countries to rule, peoples to rule, because they're so young and there's such hopelessness and there's such great unemployment and hunger. There's no progress. That's the one way you can manipulate these people is just a unreasoning hatred.
Right.
To unify.
Yeah.
You're not going to give away that option.
No,
by agreeing to peace.
Correct.
And recognizing Israel.
Like I said, it's a big problem. By the way, the reason I would suggest that the reason they have such poverty in those countries is simply because they don't want to give up their money. No, I'm on history.
He's on history. The class is over in 10 minutes. I've got to leave. So the rest here.
We're learning history now. I don't know what you're asking. We've been learning for the past. Yes.
You tell me.
For 17 minutes I've been learning history. Okay. But and I tapped you and you said, what are you waiting for? Okay. So there you go. But it's what I was saying was that the problem that you have is that the leaders don't want to help their people. I can't help, that it's a self-made poor. That's what they claim in this country too, by the way. When they came on that, but here it's not true, because as we said 1,000 times, in this country, I can start out as a low-level person in McDonald's and build myself up to own the franchise. Okay, there I can't do that. There I'm really held down, and in those countries, because it's not a democracy. They're monarchs and everything else, and you have all the gun runners. So it's not to their benefit to bring their people up. So it's not to my benefit. If I want to keep them down, I will. But that's why they leave. That's why they look for a different future.
One of the statements I really like, where's the only place in the Middle East where you have those kind of opportunities and you live in a democracy if you're an Arab.
Right.
It's if you're in Israel.
Correct.
A Palestinian in Israel.
Correct. I mean, when they want to say apartheid, that we have a state of apartheid, show me the state of apartheid where your very people are in the Knesset. You're in the rulership.
And you have a vote.
It's insanity to say that, but they get away with it because people say, oh, it must be true. The news media said it. News media is God.
You've heard that song from Ari Lesser, Apartheid Israel?
No.
Are you familiar with Ari Lesser?
No.
Yeah, he sings a song about it. It's just ironic, ridiculous, but he
Right.
points out the inconsistencies with the story.
It's foolish, but that's what people, and women have full rights in Israel, and like any other democracy, and it's constantly pointed out. I mean, go to Facebook, 1,000 times I see it on my Facebook page where this is apartheid, and they're showing the women doing whatever they're doing, becoming scientists, and it's not apartheid. Yeah. But okay, you can say what, and that's the whole thing. If I say the lie long enough, it's believed. Okay, as long as I can say one event that's like you, then you'll just expand it out. You'll find somebody who's poor, but I can find plenty of poor people in America too. But it's so therefore all America is apartheid. It's not true.
Do women have rights in Dubai?
I don't know. Okay.
Because that is so.
I don't know.
It makes Tel Aviv look like a
Okay.
slum.
There you go. So
Doesn't it?
I never was in Dubai to know.
Oh, you see all the pictures of skyscrapers and indoor skiing places.
Okay.
I wonder if women had equal rights there.
It's an Arab country, it's an Arab-run country?
It's run by a
The
kingdom.
answer is no.
It's a kingdom.
The answer is no.
The
The answer is nobody has equal rights there. There's no equal rights in that sort of system. I'm run by a monarch. There's no what's the equal rights. Okay. So, but women, no, they would have their rules. Sharia law. Okay. So, okay. So in Israel, there was much opposition to the Oslo Accords and significant opposition to Yitzhak Rabin. In 1995, Rabin was assassinated by Yigal Amir, a Jewish guy. He was a law student at the Bar-Ilan University. And because he was ostensibly a religious Jew, there was a wave of anti-religious sentiment, as well as a great deal of anti-right-wing sentiment. So you had two things attacking. It was wrong of Yigal Amir. There's no question about that. He shouldn't have killed him. But you can't attack the whole religious system based upon one person who's acting on his own or because of the speech that he heard. It's as bad as saying that the son of Sam murdered because of whatever the reason was. I think the dog told him. Okay. The light. That's interesting. Okay. I guess I'm right. There you go. Okay. Nevertheless, because of security concerns, the Likud, the more right wing of Israel's two major parties, was elected when was Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in 1996, and of course he's still there. He was elected out. He later on, but in 1996 that was his first run. He did not roll back the Oslo Accord. In fact, he actually signed a new accord at the Y Plantation. His government failed, and Ehud Barak, who was the Labour candidate, was elected in 1999. Now, if you remember Barak, let's just go through a little of his history. He was an Israeli war hero who campaigned on the theme of bringing peace and creating a secular revolution. I'll go a little further. In 1999, the elections between Netanyahu and Barak did demonstrate two interesting power shifts. One was the Shas party, which is the religious Sephardi party, was very successful. Over the years, there had been an important revival of pride amongst the Sephardi Jews in Israel. Remember what happened originally? When Sephardi came over, since the Ashkenazim were there, they tried to Ashkenize the Sephardi Jews. Okay? Again, we're trying to make everybody one group. They said they were backwards, no good. So here we have a revival of their pride, and significant religious revival had taken place among them as well. Much of it is due to the Shas party. There were another party which grew in popularity in this was the Shinoi party, whose entire platform was anti-religious. So you have two groups here. Barak continued to negotiate with Arafat, even though the Oslo Accords were in place. Arafat, however, was either not willing or not able to control the violence against Israel. There was a continuous terrorism. And here's the key point. At the Camp David Summit, in the summer of 2000, here was the biggest chance that the Palestinians ever had at having their own piece of land before it was given to them. in a unilateral move by Israel removing themselves from the Gaza Strip. Before that, Barak offered Arafat joint sovereignty of Jerusalem, and he wanted to cede 95% of Judea and Samaria to the Palestinians. They were going to get, in your negotiations, have you ever got 95% of what you wanted? Think about that.
With your wife or something?
Anything.
And turned it down.
Right. Arafat turned, he walks out.
Like suppose you go up to your boss and ask him for $100 raise. Well, that's too much, but I'll give you 95. Wow.
Right.
No way.
Right. And you say, no, I want 100 or nothing. Okay? And Arafat walked away. Now, if you really want peace, if you really want to negotiate with your peoples, everybody understands it's give and take. And Barak threw the gauntlet down and said, I'm going to give you 95%.
Why?
5% I won't give you. I can't give you 5% because that wipes out Israel. What was they talking about? The law of return. The law of return. Here,
Take the 95 and then start arguing about it.
right. That's what people said too.
That's what they know.
That's right. But here, if they would have allowed for law of return for the Arabs, so then they would have got all their cousins and would have overran Israel in the second.
He was giving them 95% of what?
Of what they wanted. Of all the lands of Judea and Samaria, they gave them they were willing to give it away.
95% of the land.
Of what they wanted. If it was of what the PLO was saying that's what they want and they'll have peace. He was willing to give them 95% of that. Some parts he couldn't give away because it was you had major settlements there. I mean, you can't just uproot everybody. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of people. Okay, so there he wouldn't go, but he was willing to give them joint sovereignty of Yerushalayim.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable. I'm surprised if Rabin was killed. I'm surprised that, and I don't want, again, it's all his history here. But I don't know how Barak survived that. Besides the fact that Arafat said no. That was like God made Arafat an idiot.
Yeah.
95, and like you said, take 95% and work on the other 5% later. Leave me alone. Yeah.
Move in and take it over.
This is step one of the plan, and take 95%.
Yeah, take 95% and have it call it a day. And again, if you think about the birth rates, really do change. What is it called? Demographics. It changes your demographics. If you're only having 13 kids to a family, which they're not, by the way, that's just should not lie too. They're having normal kids. They're having 5, 6, whatever, or 3. Now it's even going less. Okay, but their birth rate is not as crazy as people want to say it is. But it's if you're having even 5, 6 kids, it's not going to take long for you to take over the government. You got it in 5 years. As a matter of fact, in I remember when they were having a discussion around the family one time, and we were talking about the idiocy of the situation. It was before any agreements came out. Probably still the Vietnam war was going on, if I remember correctly. And I remember the discussion was, I don't get it. The adults were saying, I was a kid. I don't get it. All the Arabs have to do is put down their weapons, say, you win. And they'll beat us. Because they could move in as citizens. You're a citizen, very nice. Because they were always able to become citizens. Within one generation, you take over. Without a shot fired. And if you think back historically, by the way, that's what happened with the Maccabees. They welcomed in the Romans. The Romans didn't have to have one soldier wounded. They welcomed them in and they took over. Because they had the numbers. That's all it is. They have numbers. So anytime I have numbers, I'm going to win. If the women in this country really wanted everything they want, they have 51%. They're going to outbeat it. They're going to kill us every time. Okay? The fact of the matter is, they're not united, which is why they don't get everything they want. And yeah, that's on tape, and I'm going to be killed for some of these things. Luckily, only 3 people watch these things.
It shows you some of the, you know, we think of all the advantages of democracy, but the disadvantages are they can breed you out.
Right.
Because
right.
everyone has a vote.
Correct. And that's what I'm saying. If anybody who really wants to do things, even without the vote, by the way, even without a vote, if I'm the overwhelming majority, I can turn any system over I want. And that was, the Marxian idea: the worker will rule. If I really decide I don't want to work anymore because, like this health plan, I just was reading Obamacare on Yahoo.com, not Fox, not the other, not Infinity, okay, which you know are right wing people, okay. But Yahoo is the left wing, and they are, unless I'm wrong, unless it's changed, Yahoo is left wing. Yahoo.com is left wing, and they are coming out so strongly against Obamacare already because it was pushed off again. The deadline was pushed off again for you to sign up.
34th change.
Yeah, and so they quoted Boehner as saying, "What is this, some sort of joke?"
Yeah.
And they went on that and said, "Yeah, it's a joke, but the joke's on us because this is a never-ending thing, and we should fire these guys." This is Yahoo. I read the article. I was amazed that the left wing is really becoming militant, saying, "We're through with you guys.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to lose because of Obamacare. You'll lose because of everything else, but this is not helping you out." But it's so interesting. Again, that's the people speaking, what do they call it, low information voters, who are speaking, and they're getting their news either from, like we said yesterday, from Jon Stewart, Colbert, or now Yahoo.com. And that's where we're getting everything. Because we're not watching it. We're not reading the papers anymore. Who's reading papers? The papers are a dying art. Okay, who wants the ink on their fingers? And I can watch it and I can zero in what I want. Okay, but that's really what's happening. Or you're watching CNN and trying to figure out what happened to the plane. For those who are tired of the plane, now we can worry about Obamacare. But it's insanity. But again, that can turn the country. Anything can turn. One simple thing can turn the country around. That's why nobody's safe with the internet. Oh, but one of the best things was Harry Reid said the reason, and again Yahoo.com is crazy on this. The reason that nobody's signing up is because we don't know how to operate the internet. And even Yahoo said, this is Harry Reid. They said, is he serious? What a joke, you know?
Young people.
Right. They don't know how to operate the internet. This is how everything's working today. But again, I can believe what I want, but so that's what I'm saying. That guard is going to be removed. There's no way that the society is getting tired of it. Okay? So any society that gets tired of something is over. Either rebellion, armed, God forbid, or just a rebellion of, I'm tired of you. You're out. Okay? We're through. So either way. So again, if the women want something, if whoever the majority is, whoever has the majority, they really want something they can get. So here for the Arabs, if they really wanted peace, it would be peace today, not even tomorrow. Today, they would sit down at the table and say, "Okay, let's settle this once and for all." If the Congress really wanted to get this country on the road, it would be this day. It wouldn't be tomorrow. It would be today. It's just when people want to work together, that will happen. Until that time, there's just going to be this animosity. Okay, I hope that answers the question, but okay, let's go on. So, and we're about to end this course. Okay, here we go. So it says, this brings so now, in February 2001, perhaps the backlash that people perceived as a failed Oslo Accord and a failed left-wing agenda, so Israel elected the new government of Ariel Sharon. Now Sharon he just passed away. I believe I saw they passed away. Then rest in peace. So Sharon was the leader of the Israeli troops when they invaded Lebanon. He was very famous for his military prowess in both the 6-day and Yom Kippur Wars, and also for being strongly right-wing and pro-settlement. And ultimately he was replaced too, because he also gave in to the situation. We'll never understand what Ariel Sharon was all about, but he also followed the lead of every government official and would try to negotiate, knowing your enemy, and knowing that they're not going to change, knowing that it's not going to change. He also went for this, and you have to wonder: was it Israeli pressure? Was it really who he was that he was pushing it? Was it his battlefield experience, or was it, as we like to say in the Talmud, God makes leaders fools? We don't know. I mean, that's what happens. God controls leaders. The more we get up there, the more we think we have free will, the less free will we actually have, because we're running a whole system. So I'm not sure which one it would have been. Yeah.
So if that's true, then voting basically has no effect. Yes or no?
Voting has no effect.
Yeah. So you vote a leader, but then God's gonna make him a fool anyway. Why does it matter?
No, God's controlling this show.
Right.
So no, what it shows is we have to do what we have. We always have to do our, what we call hishados. We always have to make our efforts. Okay. But when a leader is doing something that's either that he thinks he's acting on his own behalf, like Obama, he thinks he's acting on his own behalf. The reality is he's not. The reality is that God is still pulling the strings, and it looks like he's doing it, but for whatever reason God has, he wants what's happening in America to happen with Putin. Again, Putin's not acting on his own behalf. He's acting because that's what has to happen. That's the play that's unfolding in front of us. But it doesn't mean that we should not speak out against it. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't try to work for the betterment of the planet or for the world or for the country or for whatever. Okay, we have to make our efforts, and we can't say, "Well, I'm just going to leave it up to God because God's in control." No, that doesn't work either. So we have to make those efforts.
There's a balance.
There's a balance, right? But we also have to understand when things don't go our way, that it doesn't mean that God's not operational in the system. God is, and it's just we don't understand the whole picture.
Yeah.
So that's what you have to say. Like I said, because Ariel Sharon should have definitely gone the other way, and he didn't. Okay? So now, the war, he says, this, I don't know when he's writing this, but it says we're at the end of the current situation, which he's not, because he's only up to 2001, we're in 2015. So the 14. So he says, though, that we're still involved with the war with the PLO, and the war is not just against the Jews of Israel, but against Jews everywhere. And this is true. If you watch any of the Hamas, it's not even the PLO anymore, now it's Hamas, or Al-Qaeda. If you, mostly Hamas. If you watch any of the imams, the left, the right-wing imams, they're calling for destruction of Jews wherever you find them. Not just Israel. So he has the point there when he says it's not just Jews in Israel, but Jews everywhere. And but like usually, we're always looking for Mashiach and so on and so forth. The bottom line is Hashem, and this is the bottom line of history. Okay, Hashem's in control, and Hashem told us that we will never disappear, that He will always protect us. We'll have a lot of calamities because of our sins, but in the end, God's just going to protect us. So, whatever the waves are going to bring us, well, we have to do our efforts. We have to do our safeguards and follow Torah. We never really know what's going to happen. Hopefully Hashem will bring the Mashiach. And that's all we can hope for at this point. But and make peace, because it's not happening on its own. And there's too much hatred still in this world, and too much prejudice still in this world that we can't get rid of for some reason. It's a horror, whatever you want to call it. But it's something that I think we have to work on ourselves before we can go to the outside world. And that's the end of history.